The spaceship Aurora glided silently through the blackness of space. Inside, the human crew prepared for their descent to Viralia, a planet known for its strange glowing rivers and unusual energy readings. The crew consisted of Toma, a curious scientist with a mind always full of questions, Rena, a clever engineer who could fix almost anything, and Milo, a navigator with sharp instincts. Each had trained for years for missions like this, but none could predict what awaited them. As the ship entered Viralia's thin atmosphere, the crew pressed against the windows. Below, a vast landscape stretched out in colors that humans had never seen. Hills shimmered with a pale green light, and the trees looked as if they were carved from crystal. But the most striking feature was the river that wound through the land like a glowing ribbon. Its waters pulsed with a soft, eerie light that reflected the twin moons above. "Is that natural?" Milo whispered, his eyes wide. "I don't think so," Thomas said, leaning closer to the glass. "There's something alive in that river. I can feel it." Rena adjusted the ship's landing controls. "Let's focus on landing first. We can study feelings later." The Aurora touched down gently on a flat riverbank. Outside, the air was thin but breathable. It smelled faintly of minerals and flowers that no human had ever seen. The wind carried a soft hum that seemed to come from the river itself. The team stepped out, their boots crunching on the strange, glassy soil. The river stretched far in both directions, glowing under the moonlight. Shadows moved across the banks, but they were not animals. The shapes were tall and thin, swaying as if the river's current controlled them. "Stay close," Rena warned. "We don't know what's here yet." They set up their small camp near the riverbank. Toma unpacked scientific instruments while Milo secured the ship. Rena checked the communication devices, ensuring they could reach the Aurora at any time. The river's soft hum seemed to grow louder as night fell, and tiny lights flickered beneath the surface like stars trapped in water. "I can hear voices," Toma said suddenly. His voice was low, almost nervous. "Voices? Come on, Toma. You've been staring at that river for hours." "Maybe it's just your imagination," Rena replied. "No, listen," Toma insisted, moving closer to the water. He held a device that could detect vibrations and sounds. The screen flickered, showing patterns that resembled speech. "It's trying to communicate." "These are real signals." Milo frowned. "Communicate with what?" "Rocks." Thomas shook his head. "Not rocks. Something older. Something alive." The team spent the next hour observing the river. Tiny ripples formed shapes that seemed to mimic movement on the shore. Shadows danced across the water, forming strange patterns that disappeared when anyone tried to touch them. The river was not just glowing, it was aware, watching the humans. "Let's not get too close," Rena said. "We don't know if it's dangerous." But curiosity was stronger than caution. Humans had a way of exploring the unknown that other species often avoided. Toma and Milo stepped a little closer, leaving Rena behind to keep the camp safe. As they neared the water, the whispers grew louder. The voices were soft, almost musical, speaking in a language no human had ever heard. Toma's heart raced with excitement. Milo's was filled with unease. "I think it wants us to follow it," Toma said, eyes wide. Milo looked around nervously. "Follow it where?" Toma pointed to a narrow bend in the river, where the glow was brighter and the mist hung low. "I don't know. But it's trying to lead us somewhere." Rena called from the camp. "Toma. Milo. Don't wander off." They turned back reluctantly. The river seemed to pulse in response, as if disappointed. Toma made a note in his recorder: "The river reacts to human presence. Intelligent behavior is possible." Night deepened, and the twin moons reflected on the water, making the mist shimmer like silver. The team returned to camp, uneasy but fascinated. They could feel the river's attention, as if it was waiting, observing. "I've never seen anything like this," Milo said. "Do you think there are creatures in there?" "Not creatures like we know," Toma replied. "Something more advanced. Or something that thinks differently." Rena set up a small device to record the river's sounds. The whispers continued, rising and falling in a rhythm that almost seemed like a warning. Every so often, a shape would rise from the water and disappear before anyone could touch it. The humans spent hours analyzing the readings. They discovered that the river responded to their movements. When they stepped closer, the glow intensified. When they spoke, the whispers echoed their words in strange patterns. It was intelligent, curious, and possibly lonely. As midnight approached, a cold wind swept over the riverbank. The mist thickened, curling around their legs. Shadows appeared in the fog, moving independently of the humans. Toma held up a light, and the shadows froze, then slowly melted back into the mist. "This place is alive," he said quietly. "Not just alive, aware. I think it wants to test us." Milo shivered. "Test us? How do you know?" "Humans have a way of discovering things," Toma said. "We are brave. We are curious. And this river, it can sense that." Rena sighed, shaking her head. "I just hope being brave doesn't get us eaten." The humans went to sleep in their tents, but the river never rested. Its soft glow and gentle hum continued through the night. Small ripples ran along the surface, like fingers reaching out. Somewhere in the mist, shapes moved, watching, waiting. The humans had arrived, and the river had noticed. For the first time in centuries, the River of Screams was not alone. The first light of Viralia's twin moons faded slowly as the human team awoke. A pale mist hung over the river, curling around the crystalline trees and glowing rocks. The air smelled faintly sweet and metallic at the same time. Toma was the first to rise, his curiosity stronger than sleep. He stepped out of the tent and walked toward the river. The water shimmered in soft blues and greens, moving gently as if breathing. Toma knelt by the riverbank and held a small recording device over the water. The whispers from the night before returned, more distinct now. They were faint words, flowing in patterns that almost sounded like sentences. Toma's eyes widened. "It is communicating," he whispered to himself. "But not in a way we understand yet." Rena appeared behind him, holding a cup of warm drink. "Communicating with what?" she asked. Her voice was calm but her eyes scanned the mist nervously. "The river," Toma said. "Or something inside it? Listen." He pressed the device closer. The whispers grew louder for a moment, then stopped suddenly, like a breath held. Milo came running from the camp. "You two are standing too close. We don't know what's in there." His voice shook slightly. The shadows in the mist seemed darker in the morning light, but there was no movement, only an uneasy feeling pressing against their minds. Toma straightened. "I know it is dangerous. But it is also intelligent. Something here wants to connect with us." Rena frowned. "Connect or trap us? There is a difference." The team decided to study the river from a safe distance, using long-range sensors and cameras. Toma set up small drones to hover over the water. They sent back images of the river that made every human in the group stop in awe. Small shapes floated beneath the surface, almost like jellyfish, but they glowed and moved in synchronized patterns. Each movement seemed to respond to the human's presence. "This is incredible," Toma said. "The river is alive. And it can think." Milo shook his head. "Or it is pretending. Some species trick others to protect themselves." "Maybe," Toma admitted. "But humans are good at seeing patterns. We can recognize intentions. I think it wants something from us. It may be lonely." As the day passed, the team explored the riverbank. They found crystals embedded in the soil and rocks, shimmering with the same strange energy as the river. Rena took careful measurements. "These crystals react to our presence," she said. "They are not just decorations. They sense us." Toma walked along the bank, his hand brushing over the smooth surface of a crystal. The whispers began again, forming words he could almost understand. His heart raced. "It is speaking directly to me," he said. "I can almost feel what it is trying to say." Milo frowned. "Feeling messages from a river? This is getting too weird. We need to keep our distance." But curiosity pushed them forward. Humans were explorers by nature. They wanted to know the unknown. They could not resist the call of the glowing river. That night, the mist returned, thicker than before. The shadows in the fog moved closer to the camp. The whispers rose and fell, forming a rhythm that matched the pulse of the river. The team could not sleep. Each sound made their hearts beat faster. Suddenly, a shape appeared in the mist. It was tall and thin, moving gracefully above the water. Its surface reflected the river's glow, making it look almost like it was made of liquid light. Toma froze, unable to look away. "It wants us to follow," he said quietly. Rena's voice was firm. "No. We stay here. We are not walking into unknown dangers." The shape paused, then moved closer to the shore. Milo held his breath. "It is testing us. I can feel it." Toma took a step forward. "Yes, it is testing how brave we are. How curious we are. That is human nature. We survive and learn because we face the unknown, not because we run from it." Rena shook her head but followed, keeping a safe distance. The shape drifted along the river, never touching land. The humans walked slowly, their senses alert. Every sound, every flicker of light made them tense, but also more determined. The river's surface began to ripple in strange patterns, forming shapes that resembled faces. They did not speak but looked at the humans with expressions that seemed thoughtful. Toma felt a shiver of excitement. The river could record thoughts or feelings and reflect them back. Suddenly, a loud hum vibrated through the air. The ground beneath their feet shook slightly. The crystals along the bank glowed brighter, forming patterns that seemed like symbols. Rena grabbed Toma's arm. "We are not alone. The river is stronger than we imagined." Milo stepped back. "Stronger, yes, but not unbeatable. Humans have survived worse. We just need to stay alert." The shape in the mist suddenly moved away, diving into the river. The whispers stopped, leaving the humans in silence. The mist began to lift. The glowing water returned to its gentle pulse, calm and quiet. Toma looked at the river, feeling a strange connection. "It is intelligent," he said. "It can feel fear and curiosity. It is learning from us. And we are learning from it." Rena adjusted the sensors. "We need to be careful. Observation is one thing. Interaction is another. The river is alive. It can react in ways we cannot predict." Milo nodded, still uneasy. "But we are humans. We adapt. We think. We can survive. That is what makes us special." The team returned to their camp, exhausted but fascinated. They had survived their first encounter with the river's intelligence. Their minds were full of questions, but one thing was clear. The River of Screams was no ordinary waterway. It was alive, aware, and watching them closely. As they prepared to rest, the mist thickened again, hugging the camp like a soft blanket. Tiny lights floated above the river, moving in patterns that seemed deliberate. The whispers returned, softer this time, almost like a lullaby. Toma whispered into the night, "We are not just visitors here. We are participants. The river has chosen to interact with us. And we will show it what humans are capable of." Milo and Rena shared a look, both nervous but also proud. Humans were explorers, thinkers, and problem solvers. They had faced the unknown and lived to tell the story. And now, on Viralaya, they were standing at the edge of something far greater than themselves. The River of Screams had made its first choice. It had noticed humanity. And the night had only just begun. The next morning, the human team woke to a world bathed in pale light. Viralaya's twin moons had dipped below the horizon, leaving the landscape in soft shades of green and blue. The river sparkled like liquid glass, its glow gentler than the night before but still alive with movement. Toma, as always, was the first to rise. He moved to the riverbank and studied the water carefully. The whispers of the night had returned, faint and distant now, but the feeling of intelligence remained. The river did not just exist. It watched, it reacted, and it waited. Toma could sense it, and he was determined to learn its secret. Rena joined him, carrying a small set of equipment. "We need more data," she said. "We cannot just guess what this river is." Milo came last, still rubbing his eyes. "Data is fine, but let's not get too close this time. I don't like the way it watches." Toma smiled. "Humans are different. Other species would run. But we learn by facing the unknown. That is why we survive." Rena set up a small drone and sent it hovering over the water. The camera feed revealed shapes beneath the river's surface. Tiny crystalline forms moved in synchronized patterns, like schools of fish but more precise, almost mechanical. Yet their movements were smooth and natural, not robotic. "Look at that," Toma said. "It is not just alive. It is aware. It is organizing itself." Milo frowned. "Or it is programmed somehow. We do not know its purpose yet." Toma leaned closer to the river, letting his fingers hover above the glowing water. The river pulsed in response, sending ripples that moved toward him. The whispers grew louder for a moment, forming patterns he could almost recognize. A strange feeling washed over him, a sense that the river was showing memories, moments from a time long ago. "What is it trying to tell us?" Milo asked, stepping closer despite his unease. "I think it is sharing its history," Toma said. "Not with words, but with energy and patterns. It wants us to understand." Rena took measurements of the crystals along the riverbank. Each crystal resonated with the river's energy, sending small pulses into the soil and the air. "These crystals are amplifiers," she said. "They are like the neurons of a brain. The river may be storing information in them." Milo shook his head. "You mean the river is alive and thinking? That is impossible." Toma looked at him steadily. "Humans are capable of facing impossible things and learning from them. That is our advantage. We survive because we explore what others avoid." As they studied the river, a sudden movement caught their attention. A shape rose from the water, larger than anything they had seen before. It floated just above the surface, shimmering with colors that shifted like liquid light. The shape hovered for a moment, then dipped back into the river, leaving ripples that echoed across the bank. "Do you think it is friendly?" Milo asked. "I do not know," Toma admitted. "But it is intelligent. And intelligence is rare in the universe. That means it may understand reason, curiosity, and courage. Things humans possess in abundance." The team continued their work throughout the day. They mapped the riverbank, catalogued the crystals, and recorded the movements of the shapes beneath the water. Every observation seemed to bring a response from the river. Ripples changed direction, glowing pulses intensified, and the whispers grew in complexity. It was almost as if the river was communicating directly with them. As night approached, the mist rose from the river again, thicker than ever. Shadows moved across the surface, taking forms that resembled the humans themselves. Each shadow mirrored their movements but slightly wrong, as if testing them. Rena tightened her grip on a tool. "It is mimicking us. That is unsettling." Toma watched closely. It is not trying to scare us. It is learning about us. Understanding us. That is why it copies our movements. Milo swallowed hard. Humans are brave, yes, but do you think it is too powerful for us? Thomas shook his head. Nothing is too powerful if we use our minds and work together. That is why we are special. The river's whispers grew louder and more structured. This time, Toma thought he recognized patterns that resembled images, memories, and emotions. They were fragmented but real. He saw visions of a long-lost civilization, people who had lived by the river many thousands of years ago. Their knowledge, their joys, and their fears were embedded in the water and crystals. This river is a library, Toma said quietly. It stores the experiences of those who came before. And now it has chosen to show us. Rena stared at him in disbelief. A living library? That is incredible. Yes, Thomas said. And it is testing us. To see if we are worthy of learning from it. Only humans have the courage, curiosity, and ingenuity to face it without fear. Milo looked at the glowing shapes in the water. We need to be careful. This is not just knowledge. It is alive. It could be dangerous. Toma nodded. Dangerous, yes. But manageable. We think, we learn, we adapt. That is humanity. That is why we survive where others fail. The night deepened, and the river seemed to respond to their thoughts and feelings. It pulsed with soft light when they approached, and the whispers became warmer, almost comforting. It was as if the river was inviting them to understand, rather than threatening them. Suddenly, one of the larger shapes rose fully out of the water. Its form was humanoid, but it shimmered like glass. It extended a hand toward the humans, then withdrew it slowly. The team froze, unsure whether to approach or retreat. This is a test, Thomas said. It wants to see how we respond to trust. If we hesitate, we fail. If we act with courage, we succeed. Rena and Milo exchanged a look. They trusted Toma's instincts, and slowly, they stepped forward. The shape did not move away. Instead, it dipped back into the river, leaving a trail of glowing light. The whispers became rhythmic, almost like applause. The humans realized they had passed the first test. The river had accepted their presence, recognizing human curiosity and courage as unique. As dawn broke, the river's glow softened, and the mist began to lift. The team returned to their camp, exhausted but exhilarated. They had discovered a secret: the river was not just alive, it was sentient, a repository of knowledge from an ancient civilization. It had begun to share its memories with them, carefully, cautiously. Toma recorded his observations. The river is testing us, teaching us. It recognizes human potential. We must continue to act with courage and curiosity. That is what sets us apart. That is what makes us worthy of its knowledge. Milo nodded. We are not just visitors here. We are part of something greater. Something alive and intelligent. Rena added, and if we continue carefully, we can learn more than anyone else ever has. But we must respect it. That is key. The River of Screams had revealed its first secret. It was a library, a guardian of a lost civilization, and now it had chosen humanity to share its knowledge. The night had tested them, the river had judged them, and humans had proved that courage, curiosity, and intelligence could unlock even the deepest mysteries of the universe. The team settled into their tents, aware that their journey was just beginning. The river's secrets were vast, and the challenges ahead would be greater. But humans were explorers, thinkers, and learners. They were ready. The sun had barely risen when the team gathered by the riverbank again. Viralia's twin moons had set hours ago, leaving a faint glow in the sky that reflected on the water. The river shimmered as always, but today it felt different. The whispers had grown stronger during the night, carrying an urgency the humans could not ignore. Toma examined the rippling water. It wants us to act, he said. Last night, it tested our courage. Today, it is testing our intelligence and teamwork. Rena nodded. I can feel it too. The way the crystals respond, the way the shadows move. It is not passive. It is active. Milo adjusted his equipment nervously. Active or dangerous? We cannot forget that. This river is alive, and it can control the environment around it. We must be careful. They spread out along the bank, keeping a safe distance while still observing the glowing water. Tiny shapes floated beneath the surface, moving in patterns that seemed deliberate. Some resembled letters or symbols, while others were abstract, almost like musical notes frozen in light. It is showing us something, Thomas said. It wants us to understand its language, its memory. But we cannot just look. We must participate. Rena tilted her head. Participate how? We cannot speak to it with words. Toma thought for a moment. Maybe not with words. But humans are capable of thought, action, and intention. Perhaps we show it through our behavior. As they studied, the mist began to rise again. This time, it was thicker and colder, curling around their legs and moving up to their waists. Shadows formed inside the fog, twisting into shapes that resembled creatures from ancient stories. They did not move quickly, but their presence was enough to make the humans cautious. The largest shape from last night rose again, taller and wider, its shimmering form reflecting the moonlight and river glow. It floated silently, observing. Toma stepped forward, his hand raised in a calm gesture. The shape did not retreat. Instead, it rotated slowly, as if studying him. See. Toma said. It is observing us. Waiting to see how we respond. That is its test. Milo clenched his fists. And if we fail? Toma looked him in the eyes. Then we learn, adapt, and try again. Humans survive by solving problems. That is what makes us different. That is why it watches us. Rena scanned the riverbank and noticed small glowing orbs drifting along the water's edge. They are moving toward us, she said. But not randomly. They form patterns. Toma knelt and studied the orbs. They pulsed in sequence, like a rhythm that was both musical and mathematical. It is teaching us, he said. It is giving us a puzzle to solve. If we act with intelligence and coordination, we pass the test. The team worked together. Rena directed the drones to mirror the orb's patterns in the air. Milo adjusted sensors to track the river's responses. Toma attempted to decode the rhythm, noting how the river pulsed in response to their actions. Hours passed. The river shifted constantly, challenging their every move. When they moved too quickly, the orbs scattered. When they acted too slowly, the shadows leaned closer. But when the humans worked in perfect coordination, the river responded positively, sending waves of warm light and soft whispers of approval. It is learning us as we learn it, Toma said. This is not just a puzzle. It is a conversation. Rena smiled faintly. A conversation without words. That is unusual, but it makes sense. The river is intelligent, but not like us. It communicates through energy and patterns. We have to adapt to its language. Suddenly, a shadow surged forward from the mist. It moved faster than anything they had seen, cutting across the riverbank toward Toma. He froze, but the shadow stopped just short of him, swirling in the air and forming the shape of a hand reaching out. Toma held his ground. It is testing fear, he whispered. We are human. We do not panic. We observe, analyze, and act. Rena and Milo joined him, forming a line. The shadow mimicked them, copying their posture and gestures. The mist thickened further, wrapping around their legs and swirling around their arms. The river's glow intensified, casting strange reflections on the fog. The river is making this more challenging, Rena said. It is showing us danger, testing how we respond together. Toma nodded. Exactly. It wants to see our unity, our problem-solving ability. Humans survive because we face danger with thought and cooperation. The shadows paused, hovering just above the river's surface. The glowing orbs shifted into a circle around the humans. Toma realized that the river had created a controlled environment. It was dangerous, but contained. They could test themselves safely, as long as they stayed focused. Milo exhaled slowly. All right. We can do this. We are humans. We survive. We adapt. We learn. Working together, they began to interact with the orbs and shadows. Every move had to be deliberate. Every gesture had to match the rhythm of the river. When one person hesitated, the shadows tightened their circle. When they acted in harmony, the shadows receded slightly, and the orbs pulsed in bright colors. Hours passed, and their coordination improved. The river responded with greater clarity. The whispers formed complex patterns, almost like sentences made of sound and light. Toma felt as if the river was beginning to reveal its deeper knowledge, sharing the wisdom of the ancient civilization that had once lived along its banks. Finally, as dawn approached, the shadows dissolved into mist, and the orbs floated gently back into the river. The water shimmered peacefully, no longer tense or foreboding. The river had accepted their efforts. The humans had passed the test. Toma looked at the water and smiled. It recognized our courage, intelligence, and unity. That is why humans survive. That is why we continue to explore, adapt, and learn. Rena adjusted the equipment one last time. We learned a lot tonight. The river tests us, but it also teaches us. We just need to continue observing carefully and working together. Milo nodded. We are humans. That means we can solve problems, face danger, and grow stronger. The river will teach us more if we are ready. The mist slowly lifted, leaving the river calm and radiant. The whispers became soft, almost like a lullaby, and the glowing orb sank beneath the water. The shadows were gone. The river had returned to its gentle rhythm. The team returned to their camp, exhausted but exhilarated. They had faced fear, solved complex patterns, and demonstrated the very qualities that made humans special. Courage, intelligence, unity, and adaptability had allowed them to survive the river's test. As they settled into their tents, Toma whispered, "The river has more secrets, more challenges, and more knowledge. But we are humans. We will face them, learn from them, and grow stronger." Rena smiled. It is more than just a river. It is a teacher, a guardian, and a challenge. And it chose us to prove ourselves. Milo added, "We survived the night, and we learned the river's first lesson. We will continue, no matter what comes next." The river of screams had tested humans, and humans had proved that they were worthy. Their courage, intelligence, and unity had passed the first true trial. The night had shown them that survival was not just about strength, but about mind, heart, and cooperation. The river pulsed quietly in the distance, as if acknowledging their success, while the twin moons began to rise again, lighting the world with soft, silver glow. The adventure was far from over, but humanity had shown its unique strength. Night fell over Viralaya again, darker and colder than before. The river glowed softly, reflecting the twin moons above, but the air carried a new tension. Mist rose from the water, curling around the humans' legs and drifting into the camp. The team felt a strange energy vibrating in the ground, a pulse that seemed to come from the river itself. Toma stood at the riverbank, studying the water closely. "It is beginning a new test," he said. "Last night it measured our courage, our intelligence, and our teamwork. Tonight, it will measure our resolve, our creativity, and our empathy." Rena adjusted the equipment, scanning the glowing water. It feels different this time. The river is more deliberate. We must stay alert and think carefully about every action. Milo looked uneasy. It is one thing to face patterns and shadows. It is another to face illusions that trick the mind. We must be ready. The mist thickened, forming shapes that resembled the team members themselves. At first, they thought it was a reflection, but the figures moved independently, mimicking their actions with slight differences. Every step, every gesture was mirrored in a strange, unsettling way. It is testing our perception, Thomas said quietly. We must recognize what is real and what is created by the river. Humans have an advantage here. We can analyze, observe, and adapt. Rena focused on her instruments. The devices showed energy readings in the mist that did not match any physical object. These are illusions, she said. The river is creating them from its energy. It wants to see how we respond under pressure. Milo clenched his fists. I do not like this. It feels personal. Like it knows our thoughts. Toma nodded. It does. The river can sense our intentions, our fears, and our curiosity. That is why we must stay calm, stay alert, and rely on our human strengths. That is what makes us different. As they moved carefully along the riverbank, one illusion stepped forward. It resembled Toma but with glowing eyes and a twisted posture. The shadow spoke, though its words were distorted and impossible to understand. Toma held his ground. Ignore the fear it creates, he said to the others. Focus on what is real. Trust your instincts, trust each other, and move together. The team worked in coordination. Rena and Milo used the sensors to track the real forms of each other, while Toma analyzed the illusions. Every time they made a mistake, the shadows shifted, creating new obstacles. But when they acted with precision and unity, the river responded with a pulse of warm light, as if acknowledging their success. Hours passed, and the illusions grew more complex. The mist formed shapes of towering creatures, enormous and threatening, yet entirely unreal. The river amplified the whispers into voices that echoed around the humans, calling out fears and doubts. Milo froze for a moment, hearing voices that seemed to mimic his own inner thoughts. Do not give in, Thomas said firmly. Humans survive by facing what others flee from. Fear is natural, but we act anyway. That is our strength. Rena nodded, her eyes scanning the mist. We are learning from it as well. The river shows us danger, but it also teaches us control. We cannot panic. We must think. The illusions began to challenge them with personal fears. Rena saw herself failing to repair the equipment, Thomas saw visions of being alone and lost, and Milo saw the river consuming the entire camp. Each illusion played on their mind, testing their emotional strength. But humans had a unique ability to adapt. They reasoned through the visions, discussed them together, and moved forward as a team. Every time one illusion tried to block their path, they combined observation and strategy to bypass it. It is learning from us as we learn from it, Thomas said. The river measures not just courage, but how we react under pressure. How we solve problems together. That is why humans thrive. Eventually, the mist began to thin, and the shadows faded into the glowing river. The pulse of energy slowed, and the whispers softened. The test was ending. Rena checked the instruments one last time. We passed it. The river is satisfied with our actions. It measured fear, intelligence, teamwork, and resilience. We proved that humans are capable of facing complex challenges. Milo exhaled, a mixture of relief and pride on his face. We survived the illusions, and we learned from them. That is more than I expected. Toma knelt by the water, placing his hand lightly on the surface. The river pulsed beneath his palm, sending warmth through him. It shared knowledge with us tonight. Not just about itself, but about humanity. Our courage, our creativity, and our empathy set us apart. Other species might flee from the illusions. We face them. That is why the river chose us. The glowing orbs that had floated along the river during the previous test returned, moving in a gentle spiral around the humans. Their light was soothing now, almost celebratory. The river seemed pleased. It had given the team a trial, measured their abilities, and recognized their qualities. Rena looked at Toma and Milo. The river is not just testing us. It is teaching us. Each challenge makes us stronger, smarter, and more aware. Milo nodded. And it is showing us that humans are special. We can adapt, we can face fear, and we can think through any problem. That is why we survive in the universe. The team gathered at the center of the riverbank. The glowing water reflected their faces, showing both exhaustion and determination. They had passed a trial that tested their mind and heart. The river had judged them worthy of learning more, and the humans had proven themselves again. Toma whispered, "We are ready for whatever comes next. The river will continue to challenge us, but humans survive through thought, courage, and unity. That is our gift." The mist lifted completely, revealing the calm and glowing river. The twin moons reflected on the water, creating a serene and peaceful scene. The whispers softened, like a gentle lullaby, signaling the end of the trial. Rena smiled faintly. We passed. We learned from fear, we learned from illusions, and we learned from each other. That is what makes us human. Milo added, and the river will teach us more. We just need to stay alert, stay united, and continue facing each challenge with courage. As they returned to their tents, the river glowed quietly in the distance, pulsing gently as if acknowledging their success. The team had faced their fears, solved complex challenges, and proved the very qualities that made humans unique. Intelligence, courage, empathy, and teamwork had allowed them to survive the night's trial. The river of screams had tested humanity once again, and humanity had responded with the strength that had carried them through countless dangers. They were explorers, learners, and survivors. And the river, with all its mystery and intelligence, had chosen to guide them toward even greater knowledge. The night had been long and difficult, but humans had proven that their abilities went beyond strength and speed. They had passed a trial of the mind, of the heart, and of the spirit. And the river, ever watchful and sentient, pulsed softly in acknowledgement. The next challenge awaited, and the team was ready to face it. The morning light on Viralaya was soft, pale green, and almost magical. The twin moons had dipped below the horizon, leaving a calm glow that reflected on the river. The air was cool, and the mist from the water rose gently, curling around the crystalline trees and rocks. The team felt a sense of anticipation. The river had tested them, and now it seemed ready to reveal something more. Toma stepped to the water's edge, his hand hovering over the surface. The river pulsed beneath his touch, warm and steady. "It is trying to communicate more clearly now," he said. "Not with illusions or tests, but with its own story." Rena adjusted the sensors. "I can feel it too. The crystals along the bank are glowing in a pattern that repeats. It is deliberate. It is sharing something important." Milo frowned. "Last night was challenging, but this feels different. The river is calm, but it carries weight, like it is about to tell us something that matters." Toma nodded. "I think it is ready to reveal its purpose. Humans survive by curiosity and courage. That is why it chose us. And now we may understand why it has waited so long to share its knowledge." They stood quietly, watching the river. Slowly, the water began to ripple in intricate patterns. The glowing orbs returned, floating in precise formations, moving along the river as if guided by an invisible hand. The shapes beneath the water also moved, synchronized with the orbs. "It is showing us visions," Toma whispered. "Memories, perhaps, of a civilization long gone." The first vision appeared clearly in the river. A city rose along the banks, built of crystal-like structures. People walked the streets, their movements graceful and purposeful. They seemed to live in harmony with the river, using its energy for knowledge, growth, and creation. The humans in the vision were unlike any Toma, Rina, or Milo had ever seen, yet their intelligence and spirit were unmistakable. Rina's eyes widened. This civilization, it thrived alongside the river. They were advanced, but they also respected it. That must be why the river preserved their memories. Milo nodded slowly. It is like a library, but alive. It stores not just information, but experiences, emotions, and wisdom. That is incredible. The river pulsed again, stronger this time. The visions shifted, showing moments of joy, learning, and struggle from the ancient civilization. They built machines that worked with the river's energy, they studied the stars, and they recorded their knowledge in the crystals. But then a shadow appeared, a great danger, a catastrophe that the people could not stop. The city fell into ruin, and the survivors disappeared. Toma's voice was soft. The river preserved everything. Their wisdom, their memories, their emotions. It became a guardian of their legacy. That is why it exists. It waits for someone worthy to learn from it again. Rina shivered, but not from fear. We are the first to face it with courage and understanding. That is why it chose us. We are humans. We adapt, we learn, we survive, and we respect knowledge. The glowing orbs rose higher, moving in intricate patterns above the river. The water shimmered, forming shapes that resembled hands, faces, and stars. The whispers returned, gentle now, like voices of the long-lost civilization. They were not threatening, but welcoming, as if acknowledging the human's presence and effort. Milo stepped closer. It is communicating gratitude and trust. The river has judged us and found us worthy. That is what makes humans special. We survive challenges, and we are ready for knowledge when others would fail. Toma extended his hand over the water. The river pulsed warmly against his skin. He could feel the memories flowing into him, not as words, but as understanding. He saw inventions, ideas, and wisdom from a time long gone. He saw the mistakes that led to the civilization's fall, and he saw the lessons preserved for those who were brave enough to learn. Rina knelt beside him, touching a glowing crystal. Its energy flowed into her hands. She understood that the river's purpose was not just to preserve the past, but to guide the future. It had waited for humans curious, intelligent, and courageous to arrive and prove themselves worthy of its teachings. This knowledge, Toma said, is more than technology or science. It is wisdom. It is understanding life, survival, and harmony. The river has chosen to share it with us because humans are capable of handling it responsibly. Milo looked at the flowing water, reflecting on the trials they had faced. We faced fear, illusions, and tests of intelligence. We worked together, and we succeeded. That is why we are here. That is why the river trusts us. The river pulsed again, sending ripples along the bank. The glowing orbs formed a circle around the humans, rising and spinning slowly. The whispers grew more distinct, almost like a song, telling a story of life, learning, and growth. The humans realized that this river was not just a test or a challenge. It was a teacher, a guide, and a friend. Toma recorded the events in his log. The River of Screams is a living library and a guardian. It preserves knowledge and experiences. It tests those who approach it, measuring courage, intelligence, unity, and empathy. Humans passed its trials, proving their worth, and now it shares its knowledge freely with us. Rina smiled. It is beautiful. It has waited so long for intelligent beings to learn from it again. And now, it has chosen us. Milo added, it also shows us that intelligence alone is not enough. We need courage, creativity, and teamwork. Those are the qualities that make humans special. That is why we survive in the universe. As the night deepened, the river's glow softened. The mist rose gently, wrapping around the humans like a protective blanket. The orbs sank beneath the surface, leaving the water calm and serene. The whispers faded into a soft hum, a comforting presence that reassured the team. Tomo looked at his companions. We have learned from the river tonight. We have seen its purpose and its wisdom. But this is only the beginning. There is more knowledge, more guidance, and more challenges ahead. And we are ready. Rina nodded. We have proven ourselves. The river trusts us. That trust is a responsibility. We must use what we learn wisely. Milo placed a hand on Toma's shoulder. We are humans. We survive. We adapt. We learn. That is our greatest strength. And now, the universe has given us a teacher unlike any other. The river of screams glowed quietly in the distance, its surface calm but alive with hidden memories. The twin moons reflected on the water, creating a scene of peace and wonder. Humanity had been recognized, and for the first time, the river shared its purpose openly. The team returned to their tents, their minds full of visions, knowledge, and understanding. They had faced tests of fear, intelligence, and unity. They had proven themselves worthy of the river's trust. And now, they had been given a glimpse of wisdom that could guide them and humanity into a future of exploration and discovery. The River of Screams had revealed its secret. It was a guardian, a teacher, and a living memory of a lost civilization. And it had chosen humanity to continue its legacy. The night ended with a calm river, softly glowing, whispering gentle approval. Humans had proved themselves, and the universe had recognized their courage, intelligence, and empathy. The adventure was far from over, but the team knew that they had passed the greatest revelation of all. The first light of dawn stretched across Viralaya, casting soft golden green rays over the river and crystalline trees. The twin moons lingered faintly in the sky, fading as the sun rose. The river glowed gently, reflecting the changing light, calm but alive. The team stood together on the bank, feeling the weight and beauty of what they had experienced. Toma knelt beside the water, letting his fingers brush the surface. The river pulsed under his touch, sending warmth through him. He could feel the memories of the lost civilization flowing into his mind, not as words, but as understanding. The river had shared its knowledge, its wisdom, and its purpose. It is time to go, Toma said softly, looking at Rina and Milo. We have learned what it wanted to teach us. It has recognized humanity, and now we must carry this knowledge forward. Rina nodded. We are humans. We survive. We adapt. We learn. That is why the river trusted us. And now, it has given us its greatest gift. Milo looked at the glowing water, reflecting on the journey. It was more than a test. It was a revelation. Courage, intelligence, empathy, and teamwork, these are the qualities that define us. That is why we succeeded. The river stirred gently, as if acknowledging their understanding. The glowing orbs floated above the water, rising into the sky in intricate patterns. The whispers returned, soft and melodic, like a farewell. The humans watched in awe as the river shared its final gift, a vision of the future. In the vision, they saw humans exploring distant worlds, building knowledge, and forming alliances across the galaxy. They saw technology guided by wisdom, creativity fueled by curiosity, and courage leading to discovery. The river's knowledge had the power to shape the future, and humanity had been chosen to carry it responsibly. Toma spoke quietly. This is why it exists. It preserves knowledge not for itself, but for those who are ready. It chose humans because we can face fear, solve problems, and grow stronger from every challenge. That is our gift. That is what makes us special. Rina smiled, her eyes reflecting the soft glow of the river. We must honor it. Use what we have learned wisely. Teach others what it has shown us. The river's trust is a responsibility, and we cannot fail. Milo stepped forward, letting his hand hover over the water. The river pulsed in response, a final acknowledgement of their courage and intelligence. "We have proven ourselves," he said. "We are ready. We are humans. And now, we take what we have learned into the universe." The team began preparing to leave. The Aurora waited a short distance away, its engines humming softly. The journey back would be long, but they carried more than data and recordings. They carried knowledge, wisdom, and understanding that could change the course of human exploration forever. As they packed their equipment, the river shimmered one last time. The mist rose gently, wrapping around the humans like a soft embrace. The shadows and orbs disappeared, leaving only the calm water and its faint glow. The river had tested them, taught them, and now it gave them permission to leave. Toma paused and looked back at the river. "We will return one day," he said. "We will share what we have learned, and we will continue to explore with the courage and curiosity that made us worthy of its trust." Rena nodded. "We are humans. That means we can face the unknown and grow from it. The river showed us that. And we will not forget." Milo added, "We have been changed by this place. The river has made us stronger, wiser, and more aware of what it means to survive and thrive. That knowledge will guide us forever." The humans stepped aboard the Aurora. The engines hummed as the ship lifted off the ground, moving carefully away from the riverbank. Below them, the river shimmered softly, like a guardian watching over the planet. The twins' moons were fading, but their faint glow remained, lighting the way for the humans as they began their journey home. As they left Viralaya behind, the team reflected on everything they had experienced. They had faced fear, illusions, and complex tests. They had worked together, adapted, and solved problems that seemed impossible. The river had challenged them, but it had also recognized the very qualities that made humans special. Tomo looked at his companions. "We have passed the trials, learned the lessons, and received the knowledge. But the true test begins now. Using what we have learned, sharing it, and continuing to explore the universe responsibly. That is our responsibility as humans." Rena smiled. "We are ready. The river's wisdom will guide us, and our courage and curiosity will continue to define us. That is why humans survive and thrive." Milo nodded. "We have been chosen to carry this knowledge forward. That is a privilege and a challenge. But we are humans. We will rise to it." The Aurora entered the atmosphere of Viralaya, leaving the glowing river behind. The humans watched silently as the planet became smaller in the distance. The memories of the river, the lessons learned, and the tests endured were all imprinted on their minds. The River of Screams had revealed its secret, and humanity had proven worthy. Toma spoke quietly, almost to himself. "This is not the end. It is only the beginning. The river has shared its knowledge, and now we carry it into the universe. We will face new challenges, meet new worlds, and explore further than ever before. But we will always remember the river, its tests, and its wisdom." Rena added, "And we will teach others. Humans grow stronger by sharing knowledge, solving problems, and working together. The river chose wisely. Humanity is ready." Milo looked out the window, eyes fixed on the stars ahead. "The river has given us more than wisdom. It has shown us what humans are capable of. Courage, intelligence, empathy, and unity. Those are the qualities that make us special. That is why we survive." As the Aurora moved further into space, the humans felt a deep connection to Viralaya and the river that had changed their lives. The glowing waters, the whispers, and the tests were all part of a memory they would carry forever. The twin moons disappeared completely behind the planet, and the stars shone brightly ahead. Humanity had faced the unknown, passed the trials, and received knowledge beyond measure. The River of Screams had revealed its secret, and humans had proven themselves worthy. Toma, Rena, and Milo sat together, quietly reflecting on the journey. They knew that the universe was vast, mysterious, and full of challenges, but they also knew that humans were capable of facing anything with courage, intelligence, and unity. The river had taught them, tested them, and trusted them. And now, they carried its knowledge forward, ready to explore new worlds, solve new mysteries, and prove once again that humans were special. As the Aurora traveled further into the stars, the team looked forward with hope, determination, and pride. They were humans, explorers, and learners. They had faced fear, passed trials, and gained wisdom. And they knew that the universe was full of wonders waiting for those brave enough to discover them. The river of screams faded into the distance, calm and eternal, a guardian of knowledge and a witness to the courage of humanity. The journey had ended, but the lessons would last forever. Humans had proven themselves, and the universe would remember. A new dawn awaited not on Viralaya, but across the stars. Humanity was ready.